He merely brushed against the handlebar, a delicate caress as he glided past the line of parked motorcycles, yet the biker remained oblivious to any mishap. He beheld an elderly figure clad in a tattered jacket, and in that moment he resolved that it was a sufficient cause to act. With a resounding crack, the 84-year-old veteran crumpled to the pavement, his hand still clutching the loaf of bread he had just purchased. The patrons of the bar fixed their gaze, a collective silence enveloping the room as their eyes bore witness to the unfolding scene. Phones remained nestled within their pockets, untouched and silent. Not a single soul dared to step forward, yet 30 minutes later the oppressive silence was violently shattered. The heavens throbbed with the sharpness of steel as a Black Hawk swooped down upon Main Street. Soldiers in tactical gear surged forth as if a tempest were brewing, for that was no ordinary man. That was a father to someone, and a unit stood vigil, their eyes fixed upon the unfolding scene. If you hold the conviction that dignity remains unwavering with the passage of time, express your agreement with a like pen the word respect in the comments, and subscribe, for this tale illustrates that certain uniforms are eternal. Most individuals swept past Raymond Briggs, their eyes barely lingering on his presence. He was merely an aged figure in tattered boots, shuffling by the familiar bar he had traversed every Thursday for the last 12 years. At the remarkable age of 84, a former soldier, now a master of machinery, has hung up his tools and embraced the quietude of retirement. 3 deployments, 2 citations, and a body that no longer functions as it once did. He remained silent, bearing his burdens without a word of discontent. I sought neither honor nor pity. In the stillness of the diner, a solitary seat beckons, cradling a steaming cup of coffee, while the journey home unfolds slowly, each step guided by the steadfast support of his cane. That morning was more frigid than any other. Raymond donned his weathered olive jacket, a relic of the army from 1983, its sleeves adorned with patches, yet it still enveloped him in warmth. Upon his left chest, the ghostly outline of a name tag, once boldly proclaiming the letter W, lingers like a whisper from the past. Briggs. He emerged from the corner deli, a small paper bag cradled under one arm, as if it held the secrets of the universe. Loaves of bread, soothing cough drops, and a postcard, a heartfelt message intended for his grandson at the academy, lingered in his possession. Across the street, a vibrant assembly of bikers congregated outside a bar, their raucous laughter echoing through the air as they leaned against gleaming chrome machines, each one a shining trophy of rebellion and freedom. Raymond dismissed them entirely, as if they were mere shadows in his presence. He embraced the clamor without a hint of trepidation. He had encountered far more sinister sounds in realms where the absence of noise heralded peril. As he strode confidently past the array of bikes, his coat dramatically snagged on a handlebar, pulling him momentarily off balance. Only just. The motorcycle swayed perilously, yet it held its ground, refusing to succumb to the forces that sought to topple it. Raymond halted abruptly, spun on his heel, arms raised in surrender. "I never intended to lay a hand on it, my boy." With a hint of remorse dancing in his eyes, he remarked, "My jacket's thicker than I thought." He was not ridiculing, he was not reckless, he was a figure of age embodying kindness in every gesture. Yet the tallest biker advanced, his sunglasses shimmering under the fierce glare of the midday sun. He remained silent, refraining from any inquiries. He neglected to examine his bike. With a swift motion, he struck Raymond's cheek, the sound echoing like thunder in the tense air. The sound reverberated dramatically against the cold, unyielding brick walls. The elderly man collapsed onto the pavement with a muted groan, his fingers desperately gripping the paper bag as it ripped apart, sending loaves of bread tumbling into the gutter. The laughter from the bar echoed endlessly, a vibrant symphony of joy that refused to fade. Not a soul stirred. With a delicate sip of their drink, they gracefully pivoted their chair, capturing the essence of the moment. Raymond remained silent, his voice trapped within him. He rose gradually, one knee quaking beneath him, his face a canvas of deep humiliation overshadowing any trace of pain as he began to gather the scattered pieces of bread from the ground. Raymond felt the searing heat on his cheek, yet he refrained from touching it. With a delicate touch, he grasped the crumpled loaf of bread now marred by dust and motor oil and carefully returned it to the tattered bag. As if the weight of the world still bore significance, individuals continued to tread their paths, oblivious to the echoes of what once was. A couple hastily crossed the street, their eyes averted, desperate to escape the weight of an unspoken gaze. A waitress cast a lingering gaze through the diner window, then gracefully pivoted back to her table. The biker who struck him was already sharing laughter with his friends once more. There shall be no words of regret. Fear not. The unwavering assurance that none would dare question him regarding a seemingly unassuming elderly gentleman clad in a tattered coat. With a deliberate motion, Raymond rose to his feet, his fingers clutching the cold metal pole beside the bus bench, seeking stability in the moment. His cane had tumbled several feet away, a silent testament to the moment's unexpected turn. He hobbled forward, reaching down with a gentle sigh, a wince escaping his lips, not from the ache in his leg, but from the heavy burden of being both observed and overlooked. He perched upon the bench, releasing a tremulous breath, the frigid air gnawing at the depths of his lungs. His hearing aid emitted a soft, almost ghostly buzz. His pride surged with an electrifying intensity. In the year of 1970, he heroically rescued 3 soldiers from the fiery wreckage of a burning jeep just beyond the borders of Hughes City. In the year 2025, he found himself in a desperate plight, unable to persuade even a passerby to offer him a mere paper towel to staunch the crimson flow at the corner of his mouth. A teenager ambled past, oblivious earbuds firmly in place, lost in their own world. Raymond lifted a hand ever so slightly. Yet the boy remained oblivious, or perhaps chose not to. He sought no pity from anyone. He sought the undeniable evidence of his own existence. Within the dimly lit bar, the biker ignited a cigarette, his voice rising as he regaled his companions with tales of bravado. He ought to have been more mindful of his path. Alas, Grandpa strode boldly into the fray. Raymond's jaw clenched with intensity. Throughout his life he had worn many titles, soldier, husband, dad, sergeant, but never had the word worthless graced the list. Yet he remained silent, merely adjusting his jacket delicately, wiping his lip with the corner of his sleeve, and reaching into his pocket with a sense of purpose. Within lay a cell phone, a silent witness to the unfolding drama, merely a collection of buttons and a shattered screen, yet upon that fractured display lay a solitary contact ominously titled Eagle 6 Emergency Only. With a single deliberate tap, he reclined, anticipation hanging in the air like a taut string waiting for the moment to unfold. 15 minutes slipped away, each second stretching into eternity. Raymond remained seated on the bench, his expression betraying neither anger nor fear. He sat there poised and silent, as if anticipating a bust that existed only in the shadows of his imagination. Then arose the deep, resonant thrum from afar. It began as a subtle tremor beneath the surface of the pavement. A handful of diners cast their eyes about, curiosity flickering in the air. A figure emerged from the bar, eyes narrowing against the brilliance of the horizon. Then the sound deepened, enveloping everything in its rich embrace. A profound, resonant thrum that caused the glasses upon the tables to quiver ever so gently. The bartender emerged from behind the counter, drawn by the raucous clamor that pierced the air. "That's not a truck," he muttered, and indeed, it was not. From beyond the tree line it emerged with the ferocity of a storm, the unmistakable silhouette of a Black Hawk helicopter, low and swift, barreling straight toward downtown. As the phones emerged, a hush fell over the shoppers, their movements halted in a moment of collective anticipation. From the passing cars, the dogs unleashed their barks, echoing through the air. In a mere 60 seconds, the Black Hawk swooped down, gracefully landing in the desolate field that lay behind the line of shops. In an instant, a matte black SUV emerged from the shadows, its tires screeching as it came to a dramatic stop outside the bar. With a synchronized grace, the doors swung open, revealing the unknown beyond. The boots struck the pavement with a resounding echo. Not a single soul dared to utter a sound. A dozen figures clad in tactical gear emerged, their eyes sweeping the surroundings with an intensity that spoke of countless rehearsals, each movement executed with a flawless precision that suggested they had never faltered, not even once. From the whirring blades of the helicopter, a solitary figure emerged, stepping boldly into the fray. Without sunglasses or swagger, he exudes an undeniable authority in every line of his posture. He was younger than Raymond, though not by a significant margin, perhaps in his early 50s. With shoulders that command attention, a jaw that speaks of determination, and eyes that gleam with the intensity of steel, he strode purposefully toward the bench, each step imbued with intent. Raymond lifted his gaze, blinked slowly, and gave a solemn nod. The man failed to offer a salute. He sank to his knees. "Dad," he murmured softly, his hand gently sweeping away the dried blood that marred Raymond's cheek. "I arrived with all the urgency I could muster." Raymond remained utterly silent. In that very instant, the biker, lingering by his companions, basking in his own obliviousness, pivoted deliberately toward the enveloping silence and beheld the men before him, his gaze drawn to the emblem emblazoned on the shoulder of the leader. The United States of America. Elite forces of the Army engaged in extraordinary operations. Commander Briggs and the biker came to a profound realization. He had just struck the wrong man. The street lay in a profound silence, enveloped in an eerie stillness. The biker remained motionless, his leather vest whispering a soft protest as his shoulders tensed with anticipation. His smirk vanished, dissipating into the air like steam rising from hot asphalt. Commander Briggs ascended with deliberate grace from his kneeling position, his hands unwavering at his sides. He refrained from unsheathing a weapon. He did not tighten his grip into a fist, he merely gazed. Behind him, his men spread out in silence, creating a formidable semicircle that enveloped the entire block. There were no weapons visible yet. An undeniable aura lingered, compelling your spine to stiffen instinctively. Raymond, remaining in his seat, bowed his head for a fleeting moment, not as an act of submission, but as a subtle gesture of recognition. Within the dimly lit bar, the music came to an abrupt halt. A figure emerged from the shadows, casting a curious gaze through the slats of the blinds. A waitress crouched low behind the bar counter, her phone slipping from her grasp, forgotten in the heat of the moment. The biker recoiled slightly as Commander Briggs advanced, his voice a hushed yet resonant force. "Who among you dared to lay a hand upon a veteran?" Silence enveloped the room as no one responded. Initially, it was not the case. Then the United States. The biker advanced with purpose, scarcely. Arms lifted, a blend of jest and feigned protection. Alas, it was merely an elderly gentleman. He collided with my vehicle. Briggs remained utterly unflinching, stood resolute, unwavering. That venerable gentleman dedicated his life to this nation, while you were merely mastering the art of spelling your own name. A wave of astonishment swept over the gathered crowd. A voice from behind the lens whispered, "Oh, damn!" The biker sneered desperately, clinging to a facade of bravado. "Do you, with your military bravado, truly believe you can waltz in here as if this is your domain?" Briggs advanced a step nearer the air, thick with anticipation. Just a singular one. Yet it was sufficient to obliterate the chasm that lay between patience and consequence. "I did not arrive with intentions of instilling fear in anyone," he declared, serene yet poised for action, like a weapon ready to unleash its power. "I arrived at this place haunted by the memory of my father, who lay bleeding on the unforgiving sidewalk, while the spineless dared to laugh. With a subtle shift, he elevated a solitary finger, directing it toward one of his subordinates. The soldier inclined his head, retreating a step, as he spoke into the radio affixed to his vest. Moments later, a police cruiser glided into view, sirens muted its lights dim and still casting an eerie calm over the scene. This time, the officers exuded an air of intensity, their expressions far from the usual indifference. They appeared wary, their eyes darting with uncertainty. Briggs remained silent, offering no explanation. With a swift motion, he directed his finger toward the biker. The officers grasped the gravity of the situation. The cuffs snapped into place, not with fury, but with a solemn determination. The biker surrendered without a fight. It was utterly futile. As the sound of the cuffs echoed, his bravado evaporated, fading away like fragile ink washed away by a relentless downpour. As the officers guided him toward the cruiser, an eerie silence enveloped the block, casting an unsettling shadow over the scene. Individuals began to materialize from doorways and windows as though roused from a deep enchantment. Raymond remained seated on the bench, his hands poised upon his cane, his expression a mysterious enigma. Commander Briggs approached him once more, lowering himself to meet his gaze with a silent intensity.
"Are you all right?" Raymond inclined his head ever so slightly, then bestowed upon the moment a semblance of a smile delicate and fleeting. "I've endured worse," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper, yet the weight of his words hung heavy in the air, amplified by the silence of those who stood by, mere spectators to his plight. That line lingered, suspended in the atmosphere, heavy with unspoken meaning.
A woman, her hair adorned with streaks of grey, hesitated momentarily before daring to take a step forward, followed by another, each movement imbued with a sense of cautious determination. With her gaze cast downward, she approached Raymond, extending a pristine handkerchief towards him. I ought to have spoken up.
I deeply apologize." With a gentle nod, Raymond accepted the moment, and then it unfolded before him. A young man standing near the coffee shop dramatically lifted his baseball cap from his head.
With a gentle yet powerful motion, a father hoisted his child high upon his shoulders, leaning in to share a secret, his words a soft murmur in the air. A boy, scarcely 10 years of age, stood with unwavering posture and rendered a crisp salute. Awkward yet sincere, the gathering near the bar gradually morphed into something extraordinary. Devices descended, palms reaching forth. Silence reigned, devoid of shouts or cheers. It transcended mere spectacle. It was a matter of respect, a sentiment that had lingered far too long in the shadows. An older man emerged, his chest constricted beneath a time-worn flannel, standing resolutely at attention. A sailor who has hung up his sea boots. Another stepped into the fray, joining him in this unfolding tale. Once a proud member of the Air Force. And in that fleeting moment, a small line of veterans emerged, standing resolute. Side by side, we traversed the sidewalk, our shoulders brushing against one another. Briggs stepped aside, allowing the unfolding events to take their course. His team remained utterly still. They observed with bated breath, in hushed stillness, as if they understood that this moment transcended their own existence. It was for a man who had never sought gratitude, yet had at last rightfully claimed it in the eyes of all. Raymond straightened his posture, not from a sense of pride, but from a profound relief, as though a weight he had borne in silence for years had finally been lifted from his chest. This had transcended the mere act of a slap. It was a tale woven from the threads of every moment he had been cast aside, dismissed or lost to the shadows of memory. At long last the moment has arrived, witnessed in all its glory. As dusk fell, the video swept through the vast expanse of the internet, captivating all in its path. The resounding slap echoed through the stillness, the Black Hawk loomed ominously, the arrest unfolded in a tense hush, devoid of music, untouched by edits. Simply unrefined footage that required no embellishment.
"Honor the elder, Raymond Briggs, silent power."
In mere hours, the local news stations seized upon the story. By the break of dawn, it had captured the attention of national broadcasts. They did not merely report the incident, They unveiled a tale that demanded to be told. They recounted his tale, Sergeant Raymond Briggs, mechanic of the army, a veteran of the Gulf War, a witness to the tumult of Kosovo. 3 resplendent bronze stars, a single purple heart, and until yesterday, utterly unseen. The bar released a statement that lacked conviction and fervor. A most unfortunate incident has transpired. This does not embody our principles. Yet the echoes of laughter lingered, the sight of turned backs haunted, and the weight of closed doors loomed large. They showed no mercy. With a sense of urgency and importance, the mayor reached out directly to Raymond's son, inquired whether the city might pay tribute to his father through a grand community event. Briggs declared with a hint of mystery that he would only make an appearance if it was truly for him and not for the prying eyes of the press. In the span of just 1 week, the town green underwent a breathtaking transformation. A grand stage awaits. Lines of folding chairs stand ready, awaiting the unfolding of a momentous occasion. A whole middle school chorus passionately rehearsing the national anthem. Raymond made his entrance in a wheelchair this time, not due to any frailty within him, but rather because at long last someone extended a hand to propel him forward. And he allowed them to proceed. The crowd surged upward in unison, not from a sense of duty, emerging from the depths of something far more burdensome. When dignity is restored, it ignites a spark that spreads like wildfire, touching all it encounters. The mayor delivered a meticulously crafted speech. Yet what lingered in the hearts of the people was the haunting resonance of Raymond's son's voice. Commander Briggs approached the microphone, his presence commanding the room as he lingered in silence, the weight of anticipation hanging in the air. My father remained silent, his voice never rising above a whisper. He stood there, motionless, refusing to engage in the battle that raged around him. He found no necessity to do so. His existence resonated with a power that eclipsed all else. Fists could speak volumes. He pivoted toward his father, a storm of emotions swirling within him, eyes shimmering with a haunting glaze. "You have shown me the true essence of strength, and now the entire world bears witness to it as well." He descended from his lofty perch. Raymond remained silent. With a single graceful lift of his hand, he signaled his recognition. Steadfast, unhurried, intentional. The applause resounded for nearly 4 breathtaking minutes. Not for the sake of medals, not for the sake of vengeance, yet amidst the silence there existed a multitude of unheralded acts of service deserving of applause that never came. Up to this very moment, days passed, and at last Raymond received a message, a letter that arrived unbidden, scrawled in a trembling hand devoid of any return address. Within lay 6 words, waiting to be unveiled. "Should you choose to meet me, I shall lend you my ear." It emerged from the biker. Initially, Raymond remained silent, his lips sealed in contemplation. He possessed every justification to turn a blind eye to it. No soul would have cast a stone at him for choosing to turn his back and depart. Yet there was an unmistakable quality in the letter's composition, its jagged lines and ink smudges at the edges that stirred memories of a fractured soul from a distant past. A comrade from his days in the service, tormented, seething with rage, yet still within grasp. He implored his son to orchestrate a brief gathering prior to the biker's court hearing in a secluded chamber of the courthouse, devoid of cameras and uniforms. The man who had once delivered a stinging slap now sat hunched forward, utterly devoid of bravado. His leather vest had been exchanged for a simple button-up, and his hands were clenched tightly as if he were preparing himself for an impending blow. With a deliberate grace, Raymond made his entrance. Initially, silence enveloped the moment. I found myself seated directly opposite him, with a seasoned calmness that could hush an entire gathering. "I had no idea who you were," the biker murmured, his voice low and laden with intrigue. "Ah, therein lies the dilemma," Raymond responded with a soft yet poignant tone. "You were indifferent. The man gulped his eyes, flitting about with urgency. My father was a soldier as well.
Vietnam. Returned utterly broken. In my youth, I harbored a deep-seated disdain for uniforms, convinced they had stolen him away from me.
Raymond inclined his head with a deliberate, measured gesture. I was all too familiar with men of his kind. They returned with as much loss as they had gained. Not a single lecture was held. There shall be no retribution. Ah, a serene realm where truth boldly rises, eclipsing the shadows of pride. The biker known as Travis harshly wiped the sweat from his brow and dramatically slid a folded paper across the table. Whether the judge decrees it or not, I am embarking on the journey of therapy. I have committed myself to the noble cause of volunteering at the VA downtown.
I yearn to reclaim a piece of what is rightfully mine. Raymond's gaze shifted from the form before him to the man who had once sent him crashing to the earth. He extended his arm, placing a time-worn hand gently over Travis's.
Though the path may be slow with each passing day, you dedicate yourself. The distance to your goal will diminish, bringing you ever closer to your aspirations. Travis nodded, tears cascading down his cheeks with abandon. Though the meeting may never grace the pages of the news, it forever altered the destinies of two souls within that hushed chamber. Half a year had passed, and the intersection of Broad Street and Ellison Avenue had transformed dramatically. Where silence had once reigned supreme, now loomed a magnificent polished stone wall. It proclaimed, in tribute to Sergeant Raymond Briggs, a steadfast guardian, standing resolutely between us and the tempest of disorder. Below, a solitary line carved with a depth that surpasses all others. He never sought the gaze of others. He stood there, a silent figure embodying stillness in the midst of chaos. As they strolled by, individuals halted, captivated by the moment. Not everyone, not every time, but certainly enough. On the solemn occasion of Veterans Day, students arrived bearing vibrant flowers, a heartfelt tribute to honor those who have served. A local artist immortalized Raymond's silhouette within a breathtaking mural celebrating the heroes of the community. In a moment of collective agreement, the City Council cast their votes in unison, deciding to bestow a new name upon the quaint park nestled behind the bar, Briggs Field. Raymond continued his Thursday visits, a steadfast ritual that lingered in the air like an unspoken promise. Identical boots, a familiar jacket, and a deliberate, unwavering stride. Yet now it was always someone who took the initiative to wave first. A young skater gliding effortlessly on their board would offer a respectful nod. A fresh recruit from the town would pause, extending a hand to shake his with earnest enthusiasm. A father would highlight him to his child not as a mere legend, but as a living testament to what one can aspire to be. Travis, the very man who had once unleashed his fury upon him, now found himself behind the wheel, transporting veterans to and from the VA with unwavering dedication twice a week. Though he donned no uniform, his deeds began to resonate with the unmistakable precision of one. At times, Raymond would catch sight of him at the diner, gracefully assisting a frail veteran into a booth or effortlessly carrying someone's groceries with a quiet strength. They never put on a display, merely exchanged subtle nods, a silent acknowledgement of their shared understanding. Champions from divergent paths now united in their stride, journeying forth together toward a shared destiny. Commander Briggs made but a solitary return after the grand ceremony. He and Raymond found themselves seated upon the very same bench. There is no necessity for excessive words. After a moment's pause, his son declared, "You imparted a lesson to them, Dad. This place has been transformed by your presence." Raymond's lips curled into a subtle smile as he observed a young boy meticulously fastening a flag to his bicycle in the vicinity. Perhaps, or perhaps they simply recalled what truly held significance. As the night enveloped the landscape, the wind whispered through the trees by the bar, and the faint echo of distant rotors seemed to linger in the air once more. Not descending from the heavens this time, but emerging from the depths of recollection. and if you lingered just a moment longer, you could nearly catch its whisper. In that fleeting instant, the town held its breath suspended in time, for it was the steadfast resolve of a single man who chose not to succumb in solitude. If you hold the conviction that respect should never be a reward for suffering, if you understand that certain uniforms cling to the soul, then let your voice be heard. Hit like. Inscribe the word honor in the comments below. Join us on an unforgettable journey by subscribing to Silent Valor Stories. It is the silent souls who, with their subtle strength, orchestrate the very symphony of existence.